We're back!
Oh, you can read minds? Why do I feel this way?
What is therapy like? How does the brain really work?
Let's find out.
Hosted by Tolu giving brain fuel for curious minds. You're tuning into
The BrainCore podcast.
Welcome to BrainCore, the podcast that shows you what's possible with psychology. I'm Tolu, your host, and we are so back. If you're new here and you're wondering what psychology is or what BrainCore is, you're in the right place. Carl Jung, Swiss psychologist, psychotherapist, and psychiatrist, yes, he got all three, had the idea that life begins when you find yourself. This idea means that true living starts with self-discovery, when you begin to ask yourself, who am I? This discovery should go beyond external things like societal roles and dive deeper into your unconscious self, exploring your inner world instead of just reacting to the outer one. This is the core of what psychology is. You've probably heard the word tossed around a lot in different contexts. Nowadays, people say things like, I'm doing this for my mental health, or my therapist once said, or one we've discussed on the show before, are you trying to psychoanalyze me right now? I've had a man once ask me what he ate for breakfast that morning. Psychology is not telepathy. Psychology is the scientific study of the mind and behavior. It explores how we think, feel, learn, and act. It includes everything from understanding brain function, personality, social interactions, human development, and much more. You might be wondering, why does psychology even matter? Isn't it just therapy and people trying to read you? I can tell you that psychology is much more interesting than that. For example, it shows up when you forget a name, when a friend tells you they're feeling anxious, when a toddler lies about eating the cookie while holding crumbs in their hand, when you binge a show because the cliffhanger was designed to hijack your reward system. Psychology is all of that and more. But how did we get here? To understand that, we have to take a brief dive into the past. For a long time, humans were trying to make sense of thought and behavior using philosophy, religion, and pure speculation. In philosophy, there's literally a field dedicated to finding answers through thinking. Epistemology, or the study of knowledge, assumes that through critical thinking and rigorous questioning, we can understand anything. However, everyone had opinions. Ancient Egyptians thought the heart was the center of the mind, that it held our emotions, our memories, our personality, and even our soul. So much so that the heart was always carefully preserved within the body after death, while the brain was removed and tossed out. On the other hand, Plato imagined the soul as this immortal, essential part of a person. He believed that the psyche was split into three: reason, the rational thinking part that seeks knowledge; spirit, the seat of emotions like courage, honor, and anger, usually on the same page as reason; and appetite, the part driven by bodily urges for food, drink, and physical pleasure. In Freydis, a chariot analogy is introduced where reason is the lead charioteer, guiding two horses, a noble horse, spirit, and an unruly horse, appetite. The goal described is for reason, the charioteer, to control both horses to reach the good. So there were a lot of thoughts, but no one had any data. Fast forward to the late 1800s, psychology decided it was done with vibes and wanted to become an actual science. The first real psychological lab popped up in Germany, where William Wundt asked people to describe their sensations in excruciating detail. A researcher would flash a light or ring a bell, and someone would say something like, I experienced a brief feeling of clarity, tinged with yellow. This was called introspection, the process of looking within oneself for answers. And unsurprisingly, people weren't so great at reporting their own thoughts with scientific precision. Labs started sprouting up around the world with interesting experiments and some truly questionable theories. Not long after Wundt, Freud emerged with his beliefs in the unconscious mind, with the id, the ego, and the superego. Does that remind you of Plato's beliefs at all? Freud's theories highlighted a really important element that still holds water in the field of psychology today, which is the importance of one's childhood experiences. He wasn't running experiments, but he shaped public imagination so strongly that people still think psychology is all psychoanalysis and people sitting on couches. Then we got the behaviorists who reacted by swinging the pendulum to the other extreme. People like John Watson and B.F. Skinner basically said, forget the mind, we can't see thoughts, so perhaps they don't matter as much. They ran studies on learning by watching how animals and humans responded to rewards and punishments. This is where we get into the world of conditioning and priming. Eventually, researchers realized both extremes were missing something. Humans aren't just bundles of reflexes, and they also aren't wandering clouds of unconscious drives. The cognitive revolution hit in the 1950s and 60s. Psychologists began studying attention, memory, language, and decision-making using experiments that actually measured mental processes. People like Elizabeth Loftus, shout out, showed how malleable memory is. Ulrich Neisser framed the mind as an information processing system. Cognitive neuroscience jumped in later with brain imaging, linking those processes and functions to real neural structures. This tug of war between what we can observe, what we can measure, and what we can infer still shapes the field. That may be why we have so many different branches. If humans are doing it, someone in psychology is studying it. Clinical psychologists focus on mental health and your overall well-being. Cognitive psychologists focus on thought processes and how this intersects with other functions. Social psychologists look at how we influence one another. Neuropsychologists study brain behavior relationships, focusing on diagnosing and treating cognitive or behavioral issues from brain injuries to neurodevelopmental conditions. There are psychologists who work in hospitals, schools, labs, courtrooms, industry, government, tech companies, basically anywhere humans show up with their mental machinery. But there are students of psychology in very interesting settings, and that's the part people rarely hear about. You'll find them running brain imaging experiments on sleep and memory, designing virtual reality environments to test navigation, consulting on user experience teams to make tech more human-friendly, embedded in police services studying crisis response, helping athletes sharpen their mental game, or working in policy spaces where a single behavioral insight can shift an entire system. That's what BrainCore wants to highlight. Psychology isn't just therapy or theory. It's a wild, strange, thrilling ecosystem of people using psychological science in places you wouldn't expect, doing work that changes how we understand brains, behavior, and society. A lot of people think psychology is synonymous with therapy, so let's talk clinical psychology for a moment. When a clinical psychologist assesses someone, it's not just guesswork or intuition. It's a structured, evidence-based process that includes interviews, standardized tests, and behavioral observations. This helps map out what's going on and why. Intervention is similar. It's not just advice giving, it's using scientifically supported strategies to help people change patterns of thinking, feeling, or behaving. Clinical psychology is such a broad field, we've decided to dedicate a whole series to it on the show where we bring on different types of clinical psychologists, so stay tuned for that. Psychology also has to fight a constant battle against myths. Psychologists don't read minds. Therapy isn't just talking about your childhood forever. Mental illness isn't a rare or personal failure. Intelligence isn't just one fixed number. And no, there aren't just 5 love languages. Surprise! These little myths shape big decisions, so part of psychology's job is breaking down misinformation. And we're going to do our best on the show to tackle this head on. Once you start noticing psychology, it's everywhere. Every app you use is engineered with behavioral science, what will keep you coming back, what will make you post again. Public health campaigns rely on cognitive and social psychology. Neuropsychology helps people adapt after stroke or trauma. Our understanding of perception guides marketing campaigns and branding colors for corporate businesses. This podcast and show sits right in that space, the messy, fascinating intersection of research, practice, and real life. Over the season, you'll hear from a whole host of researchers, clinicians, students, unique professionals, and people with lived experience using psychology to make meaningful change. Our goal is pretty simple: make psychology feel accessible, grounded, and relevant, not a distant academic subject or superficial topic for casual conversation, but a lens you can use to understand yourself and the world around you. Did you learn something new in this episode? Let us know in the comments and share this episode with your friends and family. Send us an email if you have a topic you'd like us to discuss. Our email is thebraincorepodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram at thebraincorepodcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can stay updated. This is just the beginning. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you are having a great brain day.